Good morning. I'm Tommy Tiller, and today I want to talk to you about your post-COVID relaunch and recovery efforts. 2 weeks ago, we hosted a webinar for hundreds of healthcare leaders wherein we reviewed a 10-point checklist to assess organizational readiness for a rapid relaunch and recovery effort of elective volume. If you haven't downloaded the checklist or watched the webinar, I would encourage you to do so. You can do that by clicking the link below or checking out our dedicated COVID-19 resource page. So following that webinar, we opened the floor up for questions, wherein we answer those questions. Then you can find those on our website as well. Many of the questions were around quantification, prioritization, and modeling of that elective backlog. So today I'll talk a little bit more about that. So first, we need to quantify the potential influx in volume. While we believe it is critical to model the post-COVID demand curve, in addition to quantifying that influx in volume, we realize that that's very difficult for some of you and your organizations, as guidelines are vastly different from state to state. Patient safety concerns, aka consumer confidence, it varies from market to market, and these things will make projecting the post-COVID demand very difficult in some cases. What will be easier for most of you to do is to start by quantifying the actual backlog. So first we have to have accurate data on the OR cases that were either scheduled and canceled or postponed, or those patients that were seen by a specialist and are surgically eligible, but were never scheduled because COVID was already in full effect when they had their clinic visits. We need to model that. We need to capture that data by specialty and by surgery so that we can effectively plug that into our model later on. Second, you'll need to work with each of your surgical specialties to determine what the clinic backlog looks like so that we can use that data to model the potential influx in surgical volume whenever the lights get dimmed or flipped back on. Depending on how well your organization's executed telehealth strategies, this backlog will likely vary substantially from facility to facility, as well as even from specialty to specialty. As you're doing this, another thing to take into consideration is that some of that backlog canceled business will never be rescheduled, at least not in the short term, due to patient safety concerns, job loss, or a variety of other factors that may make patients reconsider having those elective procedures done. The next thing we need to address is capacity. So you'll need to work with your ORs as well as others for other access points on the way to surgery to determine what our short and mid-term capacity will be post-COVID or with COVID. Most organizations will have a reduction in capacity, at least short term, due to government regulations, PPE availability, testing availability, as well as some process changes that will be necessary to accommodate social distancing requirements. So it will be critical to understand those nuances to gauge what our true capacity will be as we begin modeling and taking a look at that backlog. So next, the modeling. So we'll get into more detail on that topic in the coming weeks to discuss the most effective methods to model the backlog. But in short, after the volume and capacity have been established, the next step will be modeling. So plug the volume by specialty case and the OR capacity into that model to understand the time it will take to work through the backlog. In most cases, this will be enlightening as it will show you just how long it could take you to work through that backlog without any intervention from the capacity side. So if the output of that model is unacceptable to your organization, your surgeons, or to your patients, work must be done to either find alternative solutions to accommodate the backlog by way of capacity enhancements through process improvement or shifting volume to other facilities within your organization, or in some instances, even prioritizing that volume to ensure the cases that are most critical to your organization's survival and success are accommodated first. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope each of you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thanks.